Back at it again with another Vancouver Canucks draft-related video. Now, if my voice sounds weird, it's because I got sick again. It happens way too often. I get sick 4 times a year. Last time it was in October, now it's January, so I guess it checks out timeline-wise. But today, what we're going to be talking about is the Vancouver Canucks and some of the latest in regards to their draft position. Because we had ourselves some updates as to whom it is the Canucks are interested in this 2026 NHL Draft. The results might shock you, but I do think there is a reasonable argument that brings itself up as to why Vancouver is targeting this specific set of guys. So here's a tweet posted by Cam Robinson earlier this morning talking about NCAA prospect Keaton Verhoff, and how his 17 points in 22 games put him on pace for the most productive U18 season by an NCAA defenseman in the past 50 years. These guys don't grow on trees, one NHL scout shared. And that is true. Keaton Verhoff is doing some very good things point production-wise in the NCAA. We'll get into more of the numbers later in this video. But Robinson also said on that note, I'm told that the Vancouver Canucks, currently sitting 32nd in the league, had a very positive meeting with Verhoff this week. Expect his stock to keep trending as teams get more face time. And trending it is. There already was some buzz of Verhoff being a first overall caliber guy back in, I want to say, November, December? Even before the World Juniors, before the entire drama started going on with Gavin McKenna and his attitude at that same tourney, you had Jason Bukala, the Sportsnet guys, going out there and ranking Verhoff #1 over Gavin McKenna. But now, seeing that the Vancouver Canucks are getting their toes wet with this player too, it does beg the question as to where their true priorities lie. Now, I will say, there may be some Canucks fans panicking about the fact that Verhoff was interviewed and that they like him a lot. But I do think that doing their due diligence, getting these interviews done, scouting as much as they can is very necessary for all these guys at the top of the draft, because at the end of the day, the Canucks are not guaranteed first. Even if they finish last by a landslide, they could slip to number 3. It is the ultimate disaster situation that Avalanche fans faced in 2017, Red Wings fans faced in 2020, and their situations were worse. They slipped from 1 to 4. So Vancouver going from 1 to 3 as an absolute doomsday scenario means that they have to, at the very least, keep their wits up for all the guys in their bubble. That includes McKenna, that includes Stenberg, that includes Keaton Verhoff. All these guys have to be on their radar because they have no choice. Until the draft actually comes and we know where the Canucks are picking, Vancouver has to cover all their bases. Now, when it comes to the numbers, this is a conversation that was posted onto the R Canucks subreddit. Take a look at this. Flaming Dragon Wizard said, his size and his offensive output for his age is insane. 6'4", 215 with room to grow. You have a question asked by Paperweight Coaster, is he a classic case of a big oversized teenager dominating kids, or is he the real deal? Greg the Great says, he is huge, but he's playing NCAA as a young 17-year-old this year, so he's playing against full-grown men where his size isn't much of a factor. He is putting up 0.8 points per game, which is near identical to what Quinn Hughes did in his draft year, but the NCAA now is much stronger than when Quinn played. And that is absolutely the case too. We spoke about Gavin McKenna and the entire scouting report on him, why his point production hasn't been equal to the same guys like Adam Fantilli or Celebrini. How do you expect this guy to go first if he can't produce the same clip? Well, it's because the NCAA is more challenging this year than ever before. You have some AHL guys who had taken their talents into the NCAA. You have all these top CHL guys going there now too. Because the NCAA has opened up its eligibility requirements, it makes for a much more difficult league compared to a few years ago when Fantilli and Celebrini were doing their thing, and especially a few years ago when Quinn Hughes was draft eligible. So for Keaton Verhoff to be outperforming Quinn Hughes in terms of numbers whilst being bigger, whilst playing in a more dominant NCAA league, it is obviously a very, very, very good sign. And he's young, too. Quinn Hughes was drafted as an 18-year-old. He already turned 18 at the beginning of that season that he played in his draft-eligible year. Keaton Verhoff is still 17. He's not going to turn 18 until June. So he's young, he's big, he's productive. There are a lot of things that Vancouver has to like about this guy if they do their deep research, but the question is Verhoff that much better than an Ivar Stenberg or Gavin McKenna? Based off of what we had heard from other insiders like Rick Dhaliwal, the Vancouver Canucks, they actually like Tynan Lawrence a lot because they like centers. Now, if you're drafting first overall and you go off the board and take a center that was supposed to go somewhere in the top 5 or the top 10, then maybe we have a problem here. But best player available indicates that either one of McKenna, Stenberg, or Verhoff is going to go first, and Vancouver, as long as they're doing their due diligence and making sure that they are taking the best player, then I guess we have nothing to worry about, right? Here's the way I see it as well. If Vancouver drafts first, let's say they don't slip to 3, let's say they get first because they have the highest chance of getting first. If they go first and they take Verhoff, I might actually be really confident in the draft pick, because if in their minds they think that Verhoff is a more valuable player than a Stenberg or a McKenna, then honestly you can convince me. Because of the fact that Vancouver already has Wielander, Elias Pettersson, Mancini, and Filip Hronek, it makes me think that, okay, it's going to take a really special defenseman for Vancouver to take over Stenberg or McKenna. They don't need another defenseman, so if they take one, it means that he's just that good, right? But then again, you could also say, oh, well, they don't have too many centers, they would want a center, they have a lot of wingers, they don't necessarily need wingers, Stenberg and McKenna are both wingers, so the entire thing gets very muddy when you break it down like that. So when it comes to Vancouver and the fact that they are very interested in Keaton Verhoff, whether or not they're more interested in him than Tynan Lawrence, that remains to be seen. Apparently Vancouver likes Stenberg. We haven't heard a lick of how they feel about Gavin McKenna, though. So I guess if you wanted to go down the tea leaves where exactly we are hearing this info coming from, seems like Vancouver is interested in Verhoff. They like Stenberg. Who knows if they're interested in McKenna, but ultimately, if you want to see Connor Bedard find his way into Vancouver sometime, maybe drafting Gavin McKenna is the safest bet, especially at first overall. If Vancouver slips to 3, then okay, the decision is made. They don't need to take one of these guys over the other. They'll just take the remaining of the 3. And I think, in a way, Canucks fans might actually be interested in that, even though it's not ideal for Vancouver to slip from 1 to 3. Anyways, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. How do you feel about the Canucks' interest in Keaton Verhoff? I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.